have a noteworthy and special guest, Zach Brittle, that gives us incredible personal and client stories on how to improve our marriage and parenting in ways you would not expect. So stay tuned. Welcome back to Fulfillment Therapy. Today we have a special guest here with us, Zach Brittle. He has nearly 20 years of experience teaching, coaching, mentoring, and counseling couples. He's a licensed mental health counselor, certified Gottman specialist, and relational life therapist. Zach hosts Marriage Therapy Radio and authored the best-selling guides, The Relationship Alphabet and the Marriage Therapy Journal. His work has appeared in Vanity Fair, Men's Health, Real Simple, and the New York Times, and the Washington Post. Him and his wife, Rebecca, have been married for 25 years and live in Seattle with their 2 adult daughters. So thank you again, Zach, for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Would you mind sharing something interesting about
it
you
is-
or how you got there?
It's always weird to have your bio kind of read to you. You write about all the ways that you're amazing and the great things that you've done. And like, it's only this minor little toenail of a reality of who you are as a whole person. In my bio, usually I write that Rebecca and I have been happily married for out of 28 years. We've had 3 years that were really tough. And so we just celebrated 28. I think it's 28, maybe 29. No, it's 28. But we are aware that like relationships are hard, and the things that we're most proud of actually are weathering that together. And then we do have 2 adult daughters. We just empty nested, which is wild.
Nice.
Like, my youngest daughter just left. The older one just came back and she's living at home for a minute, but we feel like we're in a brand new phase of what it means to be parents. Like, the role is different now. And yeah, other than that, I like to do what 52-year-old guys have to do: exercise and read and watch football on Sundays. But yeah, that's kind of me in a maybe more than a toenail. Maybe it's like the whole foot.
First of all, I love that you say toenail. And second of all, give me some clarification. So you've been married for 28 years and 3 of them were rough, or you've
Yeah.
been married for 25? Okay, got it.
No, we've been happily married for 25 out of 28 years. So 3 of them were not that happy.
I appreciate you being transparent about that because I feel like too many people are like, yeah, it's been great and roses and sunshine. And
Especially as a couples therapist, because people are like, oh, you must have a really great relationship. And I do, but not because I'm a couples therapist. I just don't have any excuses. I don't know how to do this stuff. I've had to figure out how to do this stuff and then actually do it. And it's been that work that has yielded a healthy relationship, which it's not happy all the time, but it's healthy.
Yeah.
So
I, again, appreciate that transparency. Listeners know that my husband is also a therapist, so I feel like it's double time, like this idea that him and I both have, even though we know better that our marriage should be amazing, we should be the best parents, and just like feeling like, no, everybody struggles with this. Marriage and parenting is so hard.
let me float this by you. One of my mentors in relational life therapy, his name is Terry Real. If you don't know his name, that's fine. But like, Terry likes to say about what therapy is, we lend our clients a prefrontal cortex. Like, so we're in the room and it's our job to maintain our prefrontal cortex on their behalf. So when they escalate or when they do whatever, so I do that. I'm actually really good at it. I had a guy literally in my office this weekend standing up, yelling, screaming at stuff. And I just sat there. I was like calm as can be. But I came home and I was like, you guys, my prefrontal cortex is so tired. I am vulnerable tonight to acting like a complete butthole. Sorry about that. This idea that we know what to do. Yeah, we know what to do. And then that muscle gets tired and you come home and you're supposed to somehow stay on in that. I don't know if you resonate with that or not, but that's the reality of the work I think that we are doing.
Oh, definitely. I tell my kids all the time. We have 4 kids and an exchange student, and I tell them, like, after 8 o'clock, I'm more like a toddler than anything. So I just minimize your interaction with me because it's probably not going to be optimal. I definitely get that. Thank you for sharing that. And you have an amazing bio here. You've been on a lot of amazing things. You have your own Marriage Therapy Radio. Tell me a little bit about that and that journey.
Yeah. I'm definitely a couples therapist. I'm bad at individual therapy. I can barely do it as a client, but as a therapist, I'm not your guy. If people like kind of come see you, I'm like one on one, I'm not your guy. I definitely get and feel strongly about couples work in a way that I think is unique. I had somebody tell me the other day they were seeing a guy who does individual therapy and he also does couples. And I was like, that to me, that sounds a little bit like I have a dentist who also works on cars. And I think, for me, because I locked in pretty fast to that reality, I was a graduate student working with students one on one. And then somebody brought his wife in one day and my whole body changed. My everything changed. And so I've just organized my career around how can I be of help to couples. And so that's what I write about. A friend and I started a podcast about 8 years ago called Marriage Therapy Radio. She's also a couples therapist. We did about 7 years together. And then she decided that she wanted to be a full time therapist and mom versus also a podcast host on the side. So she left the show. And in the last year, this calendar year, I've really just focused on actually interviewing couples. All of my episodes at this point are just me talking to different couples from different walks of life and different phases in their relationship. Talk to my parents who are in their 70s. And then I also talked just recently to a couple that are 18. Like he's a senior in high school, she's a freshman in college. So everybody in between. Because I have this really unique privilege of my end sample for how relationships work is very big. I have a lot of exposure to couples from who are making it work in all kinds of different ways. Most people don't have that. Most people have their parents, maybe their sister and her husband, maybe they have a couple friends that they live life with, but their end sample for how relationships work is 5 to 10. Some of those might even be on TV. I literally talked to hundreds of couples, hundreds and hundreds of couples I've spent time talking. And so I want my listeners on Marriage Therapy Radio anyway to have same experience. To go, oh, it can work like that. Oh, you can make it work like this. Oh, you can. That's interesting. And they have a thing. Everybody's got a thing, right? Like one couple, their thing is adventure. Another one, their thing might be coffee. One might be recovery from infidelity, and one might be, let's see, who have I got? Oh, I've got blended families. I'm talking to somebody blended families this weekend. There's no right way to make it work, particularly if you don't have two like thoughtful, healthy people at the table. And then I write a lot. I write a lot because it's just that's an outlet. I have this brain that is always thinking about stuff, and best place to put it is on paper. And then sometimes people want to read it. I get published in different venues, and I wrote a couple books that I published by myself. Just got off the phone with a publisher who's hopeful about an offer, which is exciting. To have someone else want to publish your book, that's cool.
Yeah.
So I don't have any ego about it. It just happens to be the thing I'm good at. And in the world, there are lots of different ways that you can be good at that. You can be a therapist, you can be a podcast host, you can write. But the thing I'm most proud of is being good at it in my own house, in my own marriages. I say about my two kids that I have three wives. I've got a 52-year-old wife, I've got an 18-year-old wife, and I got a 22-year-old wife. And I have to use my relational skills with each of them in different ways at different times because I don't get to, especially now, I'm not strictly parenting anymore. I actually have to relate to them peer to peer, which is a different kind of work.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing all that and a little bit about your journey. So, in those things that you write or in your podcast, or honestly, probably even more with your clients, what is it that kind of comes up again and again that you feel really passionate about and why?
I think lately it's shifted a little bit. I think people hire therapists because they need to have conversations that they can't have by themselves and they're not having with their friends. So for me, I'm very clear that I'm playing a different part. Like I am not there to be your friend and I am there to add value that you're not going to get anywhere else. And the number one way I think I can do that is by framing and challenging the container that they have for their relationship. So again, if the container is they're just doing the next thing. Oh, I graduated from high school, so now I'm supposed to go to college. Oh, I graduated from college, so now I'm supposed to get married. Oh, I got married, so now I'm supposed to buy a house. Oh, I bought a house, now I'm supposed to have a baby. If the container is just the status quo maintain, then there's no intentionality around it. And that ends up getting people in trouble. People come in because they feel like roommates is a big popular one. And it's because they haven't done anything on purpose. So for me, most of my client engagements would begin with me saying, this thing that you're doing with me right now, it has to be important. It has to be a flag that you put in the ground, a tree that you plant, and you say, before we started therapy, we were on this trajectory. After we started therapy, we're on this other trajectory. And that thing requires a different kind of attention and energy. It's almost like saying, before we moved to Seattle, life was like this. After we moved to Seattle, we had to do this and this. We had to become natives. Like we got a library card. We joined a church. We've made friends, like whatever. You have to commit to living in the new place. And I don't think people will have a lot of reason to do that unless they have a baby or buy a house or empty nest. Like I think therapy has to be a similar major life event in order for it to be effective. And then from there, you can begin to do the work. You can begin to make the changes and the choices that you need to make in order to get the results that you want.
Yeah, absolutely. So you treat it more like or gauging their readiness for change, their desire to like really lean in, do that work and not just show up and just vent and then go home and do nothing, but really make worthwhile changes.
Yeah, totally. I tell people all the time, I don't think therapy works. I don't think podcasts work. I don't think self-help books work. I don't think 12-step groups work. I don't think people work. Couples work or they don't work. And I am very clear, like this is, you're going to have to decide that you're going to work like this. That's it. Nothing changes. And the change has to be you.
Yeah.
It's not me. I'm just another resource that you have added to the mix. This one just happens to talk back to you and tell you that you better do it or it's not going to work.
Yeah, absolutely. So we talked before the start a little bit about breaking those generational cycles, like getting in another vein here, and about unresolved issues between parents and how it affects your kids. Now, you've talked about marriage being hard. What about the parenting aspect in that as well? Speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, that's what it's about, right? Like from the origin of the species, it's about propagating the species. And so you got to continue to create things and push things down, wisdom, knowledge, experience, but also trauma. Like we will push our trauma down unless we do something about it. And I happen to be in recovery. I've been sober almost 5 years now, and it's been a major transformation in my life. And it's not even really from alcohol. My last drink was on November the 13th. And by Thanksgiving, I was like, I'm okay. I don't need alcohol. I'm done. But I had a much harder time putting down anger and resentment and coping mechanisms and dissociation. Like it was much harder. That process took me way longer. And the cost of all that was that my kids were learning in real time about anger and resentment and dissociation and numbing out. Like they were learning in real time. And there's a popular phrase in a lot of recovery communities that you can pass it down or pass it back. So if you have an addiction, for example, that was passed down to you from your parents, you can be like, oh, I'm either going to pass this on to my kids by doing nothing about it, or I'll pass it back and I'll say, hey, you know what, mom, dad, you can keep this. I don't need this. And I'm definitely not giving it to my kids. And it's easy to label with addiction because kind of go, oh, alcoholic, whatever. It's harder to label with trauma because trauma is elusive and it doesn't have a really clean definition. And also, we don't get to decide. There's this whole thing about lowercase t trauma and uppercase t trauma, and some are very clearly defined, but some people's lowercase t trauma, like I got left at the mall for 15 minutes when I was 5, massive. It could change the way that they feel safe on the planet forever. And we don't get to decide. Part of it is just really raising awareness and attention in those places for yourself in order to not pass it down to your kids.
Absolutely. I hadn't really thought about it quite like that, about the recovery part. So you said it was alcohol that you were.
Yeah, that just happened to be my drug of choice, which was
Yeah.
just a distraction from my real choice, which was anger and resentment. Yeah.
Yeah, those byproduct, anger, resentment, coping mechanism, dissociation, like so many of us, I think, have those things, do those things, and are not recognizing that is an aspect of it. And so even if we stop doing this one thing, are we going to those other things, and how are we managing that? And I love that, pass it down or pass it back. I actually haven't heard that before. And I know that we all, of course, we don't want to pass it down. And it's often subtle, like how it's creeping into your lives, adverse effects of how you were raised, the things you don't want to pass on. How can you be aware of those things? Or
Yeah.
any thoughts on that?
I wanna tell this one little mini story that's, I don't know if it's real, probably isn't, but it's a very popular kind of motivational speaker story. It's about twins who were raised by alcoholic parents, and one of them grows up to be a CEO of a Fortune 500 country. And somebody says, "How did you do this? How did you become a CEO of a Fortune 500 company while your parents were so chaotic?" And he says, "I didn't have a choice." And then the other twin is a heroin addict who lives under a bridge. And somebody talks to him and says, "How did you do this? How did you become a heroin addict when your parents were so chaotic?" He goes, "I didn't have a choice." It's, the main character of that story is choice. And so, how do you stop this, or how do you grapple with it? First of all, you have to choose that it is a priority for you. And then you have to start paying attention. You have to go back into some of these versions of yourself and the choices that you made and revisit them, understand them, change your perspective on them. I'm a curious fan of a concept called reparenting. And reparenting is when you go back from the position you're in right now, I'm 52, to the 13-year-old whose dad wasn't great and who was like really in need of a dad, and whose dad set him up for failure in different ways. Literally go back and have a conversation from 52 and reparent that 13-year-old. People are like, "Oh, that sounds so hokey and cheesy." When I'm talking to clients about it, I'm like, literally imagine. I can imagine exactly where I was at 13. I know what room I was in. I know what book I was reading. I probably can tell you what clothes I was wearing. I know the smell of the house I was in. I'm like, imagine that place. Now imagine that you walk in to that room, like you at 52, and you're like, "Oh, what are you doing? Who are you?" "Wait, calm down. I'm you." "What? Wait, hold on. What? Mom?" "No, I got you. Shh. It's just us. You're safe. It's fine. I got to tell you some stuff." And have that literally have it, write it down, imagine it, tell that kid, give him what he needs, give her what she needs. That's not a magic pill, but it is the concept of reparenting, where you stop being subject to the story that you just received, and you start repurposing that story toward different ends. And you can do that in your journal. You can do that in a improv class. You can do that in therapy. And I know that it's a little bit of an elusive answer, but how do you do it? You do it.
Yeah.
You just do it. And you have to get creative. You might have to get creative about how you do it. And a really gifted therapist can help you do that. I have a very gifted therapist. She's actually blowing my mind right now. Listen to this. She's messing with me. She sent me home after our last session by saying, "Okay, I want you to have a conversation with yourself at 72, 20 years in the future. Have that conversation." I'm like, geez. In that scenario, my kids are 38 and 42, which is insane, right? But to think about living my life in a way that protects 72-year-old me and 42-year-old and 38-year-old them is a piece of work that is changing the way I am 52.
Yeah.
And I think we just need to do that with ourselves from time to time, or else we're just going to keep doing what we're doing. And that's going to be okay. It's going to be okay, but it's not going to be great. It's not going to, I don't think, it's not going to be great for me.
Yeah. I really love those exercises. I actually have done quite a bit with my clients, and some at first started out being like an intuitive thing, and then you see how much progress they make through that, talking with their child self or their 17-year-old self, or in your case, what your therapist said, your future self, how helpful that can be. And how you're right, a lot of clients do think it's woo, but at the same time, like when you ignore that part and when nobody else knows better than you how you needed your needs met, like you're the best person to
Mm,
speak to that, to heal yourself, to reparent. I haven't heard that term reparent, but that's
mm,
a perfect way to say it. And then also your twin story about making it a priority. I didn't have a choice. I didn't have a choice. Well, I've been fascinated by that too. Hey, my friends, I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. Zach was an incredible guest, and part 2 will be available immediately, so check it out. Also, don't forget to email us at hello@fulfillmenttherapy.org if you have any coaching questions, or if you would like to be on the podcast, and if you're stuck in any way in your parenting, in your relationships, and otherwise, and you want that extra help and coaching, we'd love to have you as a guest on the podcast to break that down and reach that greater fulfillment and find ways to flourish yourself and your marriage and your parenting and individually. That's a new thing we're offering in 2026 and beyond by popular demand. So reach out to us so you can be a guest on our show. Thanks again for all you do to share our episodes, and check out our new courses on fulfillmenttherapy.org. I'll see you back for the next episode.